Well, hello, Nats fans, and welcome to another edition of the DoDCast Postgame Show. I'm Drew Douglas, and I'll be your host for tonight. And boy, what an interesting game we saw tonight. The Nationals won the game 7-3, beating the division rival Atlanta Braves, but it wasn't always pretty, and it did require a little bit of a bullpen meltdown from the Atlanta bullpen. But a win is a win, and in the course of 162 games, you'll definitely take anything you can get. So we'll get into the lines a little bit here. The Nationals, early on, they didn't really have too much going on offensively. Trey Turner got the game started with a bang with a leadoff home run. He ended up going 2 for 5 tonight with 2 runs scored in an RBI, and it was his 4th leadoff homer of the year and the Nationals' 7th on the season. So it's been an exciting season from what we've seen from Trey Turner in the limited games he has played due to various injuries. Jason Worth continued to struggle coming back from the disabled list. He went 0 for 3 tonight with 2 strikeouts, although he did score a run where he worked a walk in that 6-run 8th inning, which we'll get into a little bit later. Daniel Murphy went 1 for 4 tonight with a run, an RBI, and a walk. And, he was scratched from last night's game with a hamstring issue, but tonight in the 9th inning, he legged out a hustle double. It looked like it was probably just going to be a single, but then took advantage of a little bit of laziness from Nick Markakis in right field, turned into a double. So he was stretching it a little bit afterwards, but he did appear okay, so that's definitely a good sign. Ryan Zimmerman went 0 for 4 tonight, but he did score a run and got an RBI. Anthony Rendon went 0 for 3, but the same case of running RBI. This is really all thanks to that big bullpen meltdown from the Atlanta bullpen, which we'll get into. Adam Lind continues to produce. He got the start in left field tonight, and he went 1 for 4 with 2 RBIs before being removed from the game for Andrew Stevenson, who came in to run for him and play defense late. Michael Taylor had a big game. He's been pretty hot lately. It continued tonight. He went 3 for 4 with an RBI. Matt Wieters, he had a rough night tonight. He went 0 for 3 with 2 strikeouts, which actually came in the same inning. So you never like to see that. You never like to see a guy with 2 outs in the same inning, but especially 2 strikeouts. So he's been struggling a little bit, but that continued tonight. And Wilmer Defoe, who pinch hit for Gio Gonzalez, got 2 at-bats in that 8th inning. He went 1 for 2, and he's the one that really got everything started with that single. So getting to the chat a little bit, Jay Lewis said Wieters, my God, man, 2 strikeouts in 1 inning. Yeah, Wieters, I was talking about this a little bit on Twitter, but Wieters has done a lot for Gio Gonzalez this year, and I think Wieters is obviously not completely responsible, but he's played a big part in transforming Gio Gonzalez into the pitcher that he is now, because since 2012, he's been really erratic, and now here we are talking about him as a Cy Young candidate. So that's just an astounding and it's just astounding to see what he's done. But just at the plate, he's just so frustrating at times. With tonight, he even struck out twice in 1 inning. And that's an inning where the Nationals scored 6 runs. So everything was really working offensively, and Wieters still managed to strike out twice. So you never like to see that. Hopefully he's able to figure it out, because there's not too much depth behind him between Jose Lobaton, who's struggling, is a little bit banged up right now, and then the two young guys, and Pedro Severino and Rowdy Reed. So it's really on Wieters to figure it out. And at this point, I think right now the Nationals are stuck with him for next year, because I don't really see him not exercising that option and returning to the team. So, I think he'll definitely be back next year, and hopefully he's able to figure out his offensive struggles by then, because he's getting paid a lot of money this year and even more money next year to not do a whole lot, at least offensively. So we get back in the lines a little bit. Take a look at the pitching. Talking about Gio a little bit, he had a great game tonight. He went 7 innings, only allowed 3 hits. They allowed 2 runs, both of them earned, with 1 walk and 8 strikeouts. And for most of the game, it was looking like he was going to get a tough luck loss. He gave up that home run to Freddie Freeman in the 1st inning, and then a home run to Kurt Suzuki in the 5th. And both those guys, Freeman and Suzuki, kill the Nats. Freeman, he's one of the best all-around players in the league. He pretty much kills everyone. And Kurt Suzuki, well, he's not too big of a threat offensively. He's a former Nat, and as we've seen with guys like Daniel Murphy and Max Scherzer, guys typically crush their former team. So that is absolutely the case with Kurt Suzuki, as he hit yet another home run tonight. And it was really looking like Gio was going to get a loss, but the Nats rallied late, and he ended up getting the win, his 15th of the year. So he now improves to 15-7, and he lowered his ERA to 2.68. So another quality outing from him tonight. Matt Albers came in after Gio. He was uncharacteristically wild tonight. He only went 2/3 of an inning, allowed 1 hit on 1 run. It was earned with 1 strikeout, and he did hit a guy. It was Ozzie Albies. He hit him in his back leg. Looked like it was in his knee or shin area, and Albies did have to leave the game. So we're hoping he's okay. He's one of the bright young players in the game. Oliver Perez came in to finish out the 8th inning. came in, got Freddie Freeman to fly out to center, so he did his job. And Brandon Kinsler came in. It wasn't a save situation, but Dusty said before the game that we'd probably see Kinsler in the ninth with Doolittle unavailable tonight, and that's exactly what happened. Kinsler came in through a perfect ninth inning, and so I think that's big that Kinsler was able to come in. And while it wasn't a save situation, it still is the ninth inning. It's a different role than what he's been pitching for the most part since he was traded to the Nationals. And really, we saw him a couple weeks ago when Dusty decided to flop Brandon Kinsler and Sean Doolittle, and it really didn't work out for either one of them. So it was nice to see Kinsler pitch well tonight, as he did in that ninth inning for Minnesota for the first half of the season. And really, Sean Doolittle is a guy who's been a little susceptible to injuries in the past, and now he really can't pitch 3 days in a row. So if he's unavailable, you want a guy like a Brandon Kinsler or Ryan Madsen who can come in and pitch that ninth inning, because with the way the national season is gone, it's really not out of the picture that Sean Doolittle could get hurt along with anyone else on this team, but especially someone who's been susceptible to injuries in the past. So you definitely want to get Kinsler a little bit of experience in the ninth inning, just when you can, and just see how he does. Make sure he's not kind of being just thrust into a new role if he needs to pitch the ninth inning all of a sudden due to an injury or just Sean Doolittle needing a day off. Back in the chat, Seth Ross said the reason he hates Sean Kelly is because, one, he's a terrible pitcher, but two, at Nats Fest, he was signing autographs, and then when he got to Seth, he said he didn't have time anymore. Yeah, Sean Kelly, he was a great reliever for them last year, and he's really struggled this year. He's the guy who's had 2 Tommy Johns in the past. I think they're catching up to him this year, and he really hasn't been himself, and hopefully he's able to figure things out going in October, because if he's able to be even remotely close to as good as he was last year, he could be a great, really, acquisition at the back end of his bullpen, the way he's been pitching. And so hopefully he's able to figure things out, or at least for next year, because he is under contract for next season as well. And I don't really see the Nationals as DFAing him and eating that contract. So hopefully he's able to figure things out, because at this year he's just been absolutely terrible. It seems like he's giving up home runs every single time he pitches. So hopefully he's able to figure things out. And yeah, that's unfortunate. I'm sorry he didn't sign your autograph, Seth. And then Jay Lewis also said the Dodgers got swept by the Phillies. So we'll get into the Major League scoreboard in a couple minutes. So take a look at the Atlanta lines. Like I said, Ozzie Albies, he went 0 for 2. He crushed the Nats in the previous series against Atlanta when it was back at Nationals Park, but he did have to leave the game after a hit by pitch. Johan Camargo got a hit. He went 1 for 4. I believe that was the only hit Gio allowed that wasn't one of the 2 home runs. Freddie Freeman went 1 for 4. He had one of the homers. Kurt Suzuki, like I said, had a homer. And that was it from the Atlanta offense, other than a Jace Peterson homer again late in the game. He came in on a double switch towards the end of the game, and he hit a homer off of Matt Albers in the 8th inning. So, yeah, it wasn't a great night for Albers tonight, but he still has a 1.74 ERA. He's been one of the better relievers for the Nationals this season. So, obviously not too concerned. A bad night's going to happen. Getting to the pitching lines, Lucas Sims got the start for Atlanta tonight. He's a rookie, and he really had everything working tonight. He went 5 innings, only allowed 3 hits and 1 run with 6 strikeouts before being pulled. And he has a great fastball-slider combination, kind of what we saw with Sean Kelly last year, since we're talking about him. And he also kept the Nats off balance with his curveball and changeup combination. So he looked great tonight, and Nationals couldn't do much against him. But then the Braves bullpen came in, and really they're the ones that lost the game. A.J. Minter came in. He threw a perfect 6th inning with 2 strikeouts. He looked good. Sam Freeman came in through a perfect 7th inning, and then Jose Ramirez came in the 8th inning. He was only able to get 1 out. He allowed 2 hits and 3 runs, all of them earned, although he didn't give them up, but they were charged to him because he was responsible for them when he left the game. He walked 1 guy and struck out 1, and then the Braves brought in their closer, Arodys Vizcaíno, and he wasn't even able to retire a guy. He came in with the bases loaded and no outs, or bases loaded and 1 out, and he walked 3 straight batters before getting pulled. So he allowed 3 runs, all of them earned on 3 walks. Rex Brothers came in, shut down the inning, or at least got out of the inning. He went 2/3 of an inning, allowing 2 hits with 1 strikeout. And Luke Jackson came in for the 9th. He went 1 inning and only allowed the 1 hit. But yeah, it was just a crazy inning from the Braves bullpen. They gave up, or they allowed 4 consecutive walks, 3 of them with the bases loaded, all coming from Arodys Vizcaíno, who's done a solid job as their closer this year. So that was really surprising to see, but I was really happy for the Nationals and for Gio because at the beginning of that inning, Gio Gonzalez got pinch hit by Wilmer Defoe, and if the Nationals hadn't scored, he would have been in line for a loss. And by the end of the inning, the Nationals had scored 6 runs, and Gio ended up getting a win. So it was definitely good to see. I think Gio's one of my favorite players on the Nats, and he's in the Cy Young conversation. I don't think he'll get it, but he's definitely in the conversation. And wins is one of the things that the voters look at. So every time he can get a win, while I do think it's a meaningless stat, I'm happy that he got the win because it'll definitely help him going towards possibly winning a Cy Young this year. Back in the chat, John asked if Robles has a role in the playoff roster. And to be honest, like a month ago, I obviously would have said no because he hadn't even debuted. But right now, I would love to see him on the roster. He hasn't had too many opportunities. I think he only has like 10 or so plate appearances. But just from what I've seen from him, he's an absolute dynamic player. He doesn't seem to be fazed by all the pressure. And he's looked great so far. And he's only 20 years old. So I think he definitely deserves it over the other options the Nationals have. They have Alejandro De Aza, who I haven't really been too impressed with. Brian Goodwin, ideally you'd have him, but he was injured and had a setback during his rehab, so it's unlikely we'll see him again this season. Andrew Stevenson hasn't looked too great offensively, although he is a big weapon to come in as a pinch runner, steal some bags, and play Gold Glove caliber defense in the outfield. It was Rafael Batista. We saw him tonight. He looked pretty lost to the plate. He struck out. I don't think he's quite ready. And then there's Wilmer Defoe, but he's not a natural outfielder, so I think he's more of an emergency outfielder. So, yeah, I think of all the outfielders that the Nationals have at their disposal to be a backup outfielder, I would definitely take Victor Robles. And I could absolutely see him possibly even making an impact on the postseason just from what we've seen from him so far. Obviously, this is the regular season. The Nationals, when they first called him up, they had a big division lead, and they were on the verge of clinching. Now they have clinched. So his games are pretty meaningless, but still you see guys come up from the minor leagues in meaningless games and still struggle just because it is the big leagues. It's a higher level of competition, and there is more pressure. And Victor Robles, I haven't seen that from Robles at all. So I would love to see him on the roster and see what he can do in a high-pressure situation because he is absolutely the future. If Bryce Harper isn't re-signed after next season and Jason Worth is most likely gone after this season, Victor Robles could have a big role in this team as early as next year to make the opening day roster and possibly be a backup outfielder. So, yeah, I would love to see him and just give him an opportunity to show what he can do. Seth Ross said, please DFA him. He's referring to Sean Kelly. So we'll see what happens with that moving forward. And he also mentioned that Strasburg is in the Cy Young contention. So, yeah, I think Steven Strasburg, Gio Gonzalez, and Max Scherzer are all in the Cy Young conversation. And I think Scherzer probably is the best chance to win it out of the three of them. But if Strasburg keeps pitching the way he is right now over his next few starts, I mean, it's going to be hard not to give it to him. With Scherzer has missed a little bit of time with his neck injuries, and he struggled a little bit in his last start against Atlanta back home. And then Clayton Kershaw has obviously missed a significant amount of time with his injuries. So, you know, I think if Strasburg keeps pitching the way he is, I could definitely picture him winning the Cy Young, and that's something that our own Ricky Keeler wrote about the other day. So take a look around the Major League scoreboard. The other DMV area team, the Baltimore Orioles, lost to the Boston Red Sox 9-0 tonight at home. And a little bit on Chris Sale, he got the win, improving to 17-7. He struck out 13 guys tonight, so he has now reached 300 strikeouts on the season. He's the first American League pitcher to do so since Pedro Martinez did it in 1999. So it's been 18 years since it was last done. That's an incredible feat. And with his 17th win, he's now tied for the MLB lead. So it's just been an unbelievable season from Chris Sale in his first year in Boston. And to think the Nationals almost traded for him this offseason. And at one point during the winter meetings, it looked like it was absolutely going to happen and ended up falling through. But, you know, because that trade fell through, the Nationals were able to get Adam Eaton and also hold on to Victor Robles. So with the way the Nats rotation has been this year, you don't really need Chris Sale, and having Eaton long-term will be he's a great asset, and he's also very affordable, so it gives you a little leverage if you want to sign a guy like Bryce Harper possibly, or lock up Anthony Rendon and Trey Turner and just the various guys that the Nationals have whose contracts are expiring in the next few seasons. Also in the division, the Phillies beat the Dodgers 7-5. Luis Garcia got the win for the Phillies, and Luis Avalon got the loss for the Dodgers, with Hector Neris getting the save for the Phillies, his 23rd of the year. Chris Taylor hit his 21st homer of the year for the Dodgers. Aaron Altair hit his 19th homer of the year for the Phillies, and Tommy Joseph hit his 22nd of the year for the Phillies. And the final game in the division was the Miami Marlins beat the New York Mets 9-2 in Miami. Jose Urena got the win for Miami, improving to 14-6, and Rafael Montero got the loss for the Mets, falling to 5-11. With Brandon Nimmo hit a homer for the Mets, his 4th of the year. Justin Bour hit his 23rd homer of the year for Miami. AJ Ellis his 5th of the year. Miguel Rojas his 1st of the year, and Giancarlo Stanton his 56th of the year. He's on an absolute insane tear right now. It would be interesting to see how many he's able to hit by the end of the season, because he's coming up on that 62, which is believed to be the clean record. So it'll be interesting to see what he's able to do, and he's just on an absolute incredible tear. And you never like to see him in the division, but at the same time, it is a lot of fun to watch him. John said, "Good stuff, man. You're young and doing something you enjoy. Keep up the good work." And yeah, thank you very much. I appreciate it. And he also said, "Role play. You're Dusty Baker and have a fully healthy Nats roster. What's your playoff lineup look like?" Well, I think I would lead off Trey Turner. Just with what he's been able to do, he's a dynamic player at the top of the lineup. And in this situation, Adam Eaton is healthy, so I think he's in the 2-hole. And then you end up with a bunch of lefties in a row. But with the way the Nationals have been able to hit this year, I think it doesn't really matter too much. You probably go, or you could even go Ryan Zimmerman in the 3-hole to break up the lefties, and then Bryce Harper 4, Daniel Murphy 5, or you could switch Zim and Harper. It's really up to you. And then maybe Rendon after that, and then Wieters and the pitcher spot. So I think that would be an unbelievable roster. I really wish the Nationals had everyone healthy, but hopefully they're able to keep everyone healthy next year, and we're able to see how that works, because that's really what it was like for April this year, and that was a lot of fun to watch. The Nationals just routinely put up a ton of runs every single night. So, yeah, hopefully, like I said, everyone's able to stay healthy next year. We're able to see how many wins that team is able to create, because the Nationals are getting close to 100 wins this year. I don't know if they'll get to it, but they're definitely going to be in the 90s, and they've been dealing with a ton of injuries to impact players all season long. So I think with everyone healthy, that'd be a lot of fun to watch, and maybe they'll do something as what people were predicting the Dodgers are going to be doing earlier this year, getting up easily over 100 wins. And Ricky Keeler, he said that the Nationals are now just 3 down in the loss column behind Los Angeles for the 1 seed. And yeah, that's crazy to say, is with the pace that the Dodgers were on, but they had that big 11-game losing streak. At one point, they lost 16-17, and the Nationals haven't really had too many long losing streaks. While they have gotten cold at times, they've continued to win with great starting pitching, or they've just not lost a ton of games in a row. So it'll be interesting to see if the Nationals are able to maybe catch the Dodgers in the next few weeks, and just see the seeding. Obviously, both teams are in the playoffs, but just see how the seeding works going into the postseason. But to be honest, I don't know if I want the 1 seed with the way Arizona's been playing recently, and Milwaukee's now making a run possibly to pass Colorado. So Milwaukee's been hot, so you're probably going to get either Milwaukee or Arizona, or even Colorado if you're that 1 seed. So Milwaukee and Arizona are obviously really hot, and I think maybe you just take the Cubs, but at the same time the Cubs are really hot, and they're on a good winning streak themselves, and obviously they're the defending champions, so they have the playoff experience. They know what it takes to win in the postseason, which is something the Nationals are yet to do since moving back to D.C. So in the playoffs, really anything can happen, and just really once you're in, I like what Max Scherzer said about this is the best lottery ticket he's ever had, and that's really what it is. It's a lottery ticket. You have to have a lot of things go your way in the postseason, and anything can happen. We've seen weirder things in the past. So, yeah, we'll have to see what happens with that. And John said he just hopes the Nationals get past the first round. Once they get that monkey off their backs, we have the potential to compete with anyone. And, yeah, absolutely. What he's referring to is since coming back to D.C., the Nationals have won the division 4 times now, with the 4th being this year. And all 3 times in the postseason, they've gotten eliminated after the first round. They even had the best record in 2012. They've been the hottest team in the past, and seems like just sometimes they have everything working in their favor, and they're still eliminated in that first round of the playoffs. Last year they had a 3-1 or a 2-1 lead because a 5-game series. So they're 1 win away from winning the series, and they still weren't able to pull it off. So hopefully they'll at least make it past the first round, and maybe even go on a deep postseason run. Like he said, I think this team has the potential to compete with anyone, especially in the postseason when, like I said, anything can happen. So we'll take a look at what went up on the site today. Ron Juckett wrote about how Bryce Harper's on the verge of returning. He's hit in a couple sim games against Nationals minor league pitchers, and he's also run the bases. He's taken fly balls and just taken batting practice on the field a couple times now. So hopefully we see him back soon. Maybe we even see him back on this road trip. So it'd be a lot of fun to watch him play again. I know when he went down against San Francisco, I was there, and I thought, along with the rest of the stadium and most people watching, that his season was probably over. And it's just incredible to see that he's most likely going to return. Hopefully he's able to come back sooner rather than later, get some games under his belt before he goes back, and when the games really matter in October. So it'll be interesting to see how he's able to return, when he's able to return, and just how he affects this Nationals offense, because they had a big night tonight, scoring 7 runs, and they've had big nights here and there, but it seems like they've struggled a little bit since losing Harper. Obviously, he's a huge part of the lineup, and without him, they've definitely struggled a little bit at times. And then Ricky Keeler wrote about how it's time to be patient with Jason Worth. And as I mentioned earlier, he's just coming back from the disabled list. He had that broken foot. He missed a couple months, and he's really struggled coming back from that. I think he's hitting well under 200. At one point, he went over like 23 in a row. So he is hitting some hard hit balls recently. So hopefully he's starting to come out of it, and he's definitely having some good at bats, and hopefully he's able to continue to at least put together good at bats, see a lot of pitches, and contribute offensively that way. If he's hitting behind Trey Turner the way Turner's been going, if he's able to see pitches in the 2-hole, that's huge. You give Turner an opportunity to steal and just make something happen with Turner's legs at least. And then if he keeps seeing pitches, eventually the hits will start to come, and just hitting hard hit balls, those will eventually start to drop. It's baseball, so that does happen. And yeah, I agree with Ricky. The Nationals, they definitely shouldn't panic with Jason Worth, and just hope if he's able to keep getting at bats, he'll be able to figure things out before the playoffs, because he's been pretty clutch in the past. Everyone obviously remembers that big walk-off homer in Game 4 of the 2012 NLDS off of Lance Lynn and the St. Louis Cardinals. And he has a big playoff history. He won the World Series with the Philadelphia Phillies in 2008, and he has the most playoff experience out of really anyone on this team. So he could be a huge asset in the postseason, and I'm really hoping he's able to get healthy before the postseason and figure everything out in order to be a big contributor in the postseason. We'd really appreciate it if you gave this video a like and subscribe on YouTube. If you'd like us on Facebook, and if you follow us on Twitter, you can follow us at District on Deck, or you could follow me on Twitter at DrewRD98. Let's take a look at tomorrow's game. Tanner Roark's on the mound for the Nationals. The Nationals will be going for the sweep, and R.A. Dickey is on the mound for Atlanta. He seems to pitch pretty well against the Nationals for the most part, apart from a few games here and there. But it seems like he's obviously a knuckleballer. He's up there in his 40s now. He's just kind of an ageless wonder. He was on those Mets teams. He's kind of the same thing as what's going on with Bartolo Colon, although that's worn off a little bit this year since he left New York. But yeah, so it'll be interesting to see how the Nationals hit off R.A. Dickey, because several Nationals, especially Bryce Harper, who obviously he's out, but they struggle against him. So hopefully they're able to figure things out and do well against him tomorrow. He has shut him out in the past, but hopefully if they're able to figure him out, they could have a big win tomorrow and sweep Atlanta, which would be something big for the Nationals. Obviously, these games don't matter too much, but it's always fun to get a sweep, especially against a division opponent. So that about covers it for tonight. The last thing back in the chat, John said, thank you. He subscribed to us on YouTube and followed on Twitter. He'll be watching our content as we watch our Nats enter the postseason and ignite your Natitude. And yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much. I appreciate the support. And yeah, hopefully our Nationals can go on a deep postseason run. That'd be a lot of fun to at least see them get out of the first round, as we talked about a little bit earlier. So hopefully we're able to see them do some damage in the postseason. And yeah, just again, thank you for your support. So yeah, that about covers it for tonight's game. We'll see you again tomorrow. Thank you for watching, and from everyone at District on Deck, I'm Drew Douglas, and have a great night, everybody.